Hello and welcome to the World Wanderers podcast, episode 26. I'm Ryan.
I'm Amanda, and we're your hosts. Today we're going to be talking about a recent road trip we took
to Jasper, Alberta, and how traveling expectations affect your experiences.
In case anybody's listened to our other episodes, we just switched up our intro, and clearly I cannot handle that. Too much pressure.
So why did we go to Jasper?
Well, after being home for just over 3 months, I think we were both kind of itching to travel, see something new, maybe get away a little bit, just have a change of scenery. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was for me. I wanted to just go do something. I'd recently listened to a podcast with the author of Anti-Fragile, and he was talking about how volatility is a really important thing for humans because we're so durable, and that when you don't have a lot of volatility in your life, you kind of become more fragile. So I was thinking about how that applies to traveling, and kind of when you're traveling, you have a lot more volatility in your life. So you're really used to things changing. You're a lot more comfortable with things always changing. So I think that's really a way that traveling can add a lot of day-to-day value, is that you just are more comfortable. You're less bothered by small things. You're more durable.
Yeah, for sure. So building up our skin, becoming more durable.
Yeah, and we're in Canmore, Alberta, so like right in the Rockies. And Jasper is somewhere that we'd heard a lot about, but we had both never been to. I'd kind of just pictured it being as like a different version of kind of the area we live in here.
Yeah, that was me too. I'd also heard amazing things about the Icefields Parkway, which is the area that you drive from the Canmore Banff area to get to Jasper.
Yeah, and if anyone's not familiar with the geography, Canmore Banff is right on the edge of the Rocky Mountains, the Canadian section of the Rocky Mountains.
The Rocky Mountains, let's be real.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think that the Rocky Mountains the whole way down to the States too. So Jasper is just north of here. It's about 4 hours away. So what were you expecting out of the trip to Jasper?
Well, when we originally started talking about it, I was looking into the different things that we could do around there, different activities there were to do, different places to eat, and that sort of thing. That was one thing that we kind of talked about. Because,
so, like, what did you want out of the trip?
To get away, to relax, just experience something new. What about you?
Yeah, I guess similar to just experience something new. Kind of maybe see if going somewhere would take a bit of stress off. I guess sometimes I find myself getting too zoomed into things that are stressing me out. I think I talked about how I've experienced some anxiety before, but I think I kind of look at it as like zooming in, zooming out. Like some days you'll be worried about these things, and if you can just pull back from it, you realize that the things you're afraid of aren't things to be afraid of. Like there's no risk involved. You think there's a risk, but that risk is not real.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for me too, it was that, there's the everyday pressures of life that sort of build up, and it's the little things that stress you out at work or in social situations, and it's nice to just escape those, and going somewhere really helps to decompress from those things and just kind of forget about them. It's
like geographically distancing yourself from your stressors maybe will help you mentally distance yourself from your stressors. I feel like I'm struggling to talk today.
Tongue twister.
Yeah, and also I was excited to kind of get some more time. I feel like when you travel as a two-person entity or a couple, in other words, you have more time together.
Yeah, for sure. I think that
we're here, we're kind of wrapped up in our day-to-day, so it's like we're going somewhere, we're kind of gonna spend a bunch of time together, have some deeper discussion.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess that for people who are listening, they're probably like, oh, you talk all the time about deeper stuff, but our schedules do clash a lot of the time. Sometimes we go pretty much a whole day without really talking to each other. Sometimes it's like 2 days. So it's nice to just reconnect and spend that time together and just really get on the same page and just talk about things that we both find interesting most of the time.
And listen to some great podcasts while driving.
Obviously
like
about Bitcoin, because Ryan loves Bitcoin.
So we cruised into Jasper, and what were your first impressions of the city?
It was kind of like, oh, this is Jasper. Okay. Not what I expected. What about you?
Yeah, it was quite similar. I think something we should touch on is kind of our habits with creating expectations. I think you're more assertive in having an image of what you want things to be like in a place, whereas I don't know what it is about it, but I don't like to think about things. So I kind of have these unconscious expectations where you have these conscious ones, and they have in the past kind of clashed in advance where it's like, whoa, you want to do all this stuff here and I don't want to do anything.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I started to talk about earlier when I was misunderstanding your question, is that, going to Jasper, it's like my immediate instinct is like Googling Wiki Travel Jasper, like what is there to do there? Instead of, trying to create this place for myself and creating this image, like, what am I trying to say? It's that I'm creating an expectation for myself. Like I know what I'm getting myself into, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And, we kind of had a conversation about it where we're like, let's, lay out both of our expectations for what we wanted at this trip and then go from there. And we were both pretty open about what we wanted, and you more so wanted to relax than actually do things. And that was perfect because as it turned out, it was shoulder season and there's not actually that much to do in Jasper in shoulder season.
Yeah, and it was quite dead. But I think, so in like the lead up, I just kind of wanted to go somewhere and not really do much. Not do much in terms of activities, but like I wanted to spend some time writing.
Reading.
Writing, reading, and kind of doing some things that I hadn't been working on, with like a writing project that I just like not getting started at home. So kind of separate myself from my usual routine and hopefully do a couple of things that I'd been not really progressing on. And I think that's one of the things is I've created this expectation that I'm going to go to Jasper and do these things that I've had some resistance to doing. The resistance obviously being mental, not physical. So like going to Jasper, and then still, I found myself feeling frustrated because I was kind of had this like dream scenario of like, oh, we're going to go find this like amazing cafe where we can hang out and I can like spend some time writing, get some coffee, and it's going to be awesome. And then like, I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of had the same thing. I mean, I work in Banff every day and I see people just wandering the streets with their delicious coffee, going in and out of the shops, tasting fudge, and they come into where I work with like all these different bags and they're just having this enjoyable day. And I kind of had this image of us in Jasper doing those things and finding like the perfect coffee shop, which there's a few in Banff that I can think of just off the top of my head that would be perfect for what we were looking to do. And getting to Jasper, it was just so, so different from Banff.
Well, I feel like not that different.
Okay, so it's a mountain town with a main street, but it's basically pretty much everything was closed. It was super quiet. We had a really hard time finding a good coffee shop that met the needs that we were looking for.
Yeah, but not everything was closed. All the businesses were open. There was just no one there. It felt like a ghost town.
Yeah, it almost felt a little bit uncomfortable that we were there.
It was slightly depressing as well.
Yeah, and saying that it is, I mean, the scenery is spectacular.
Yeah, it's spectacular, but it's not that different than around here. And I think there's a lot better stuff. So if you're debating between Jasper and Banff, I think.
Oh, Banff takes the cake for sure.
But I guess, a lot of people like that more isolated feel.
Mm-hmm. I guess it depends what you're looking for sure. But getting back to expectations, I think for me, it's really important to either educate myself on something, read up about Jasper and shoulder season, read up about Jasper in general, or to go in not having an image in my mind. Because I think for me, when I create an image and then it turns out to be less of what I'm expecting, I feel disappointment.
Mm-hmm. And that's the same position I was in. But with me, it's sometimes I don't define what my expectation is. So I have this like slippery, undefined expectation that my mind has this trick of like never feeling like I'm meeting that expectation, or since it's not defined, it's like, oh, this could be better in some way, so it's not good enough.
Yeah, I think that's definitely like a tough mental position to be in, because then you're kind of digging around blind in the sand looking for something, but you're not really sure what you're looking for.
Yeah, so that's one point I want to get across with this episode is that if you are thinking of doing a trip, it's kind of, or even as you're taking your trip, it's kind of important to define what you want out of the place you're going. Why are you going there?
Yeah, why are you going there? Yeah, what do you want to do? What are you looking to get out of it when you come home? I think that's super important, just so that you're not left feeling disappointed. I think for us too, getting to Jasper, we were both a little bit like, oh, what are we doing here? And then we kind of went back to the expectation that we talked about, and that was to relax, to find somewhere nice to write, to spend time reading, to just get out of our everyday routine and just kind of change it up. And I think once we came back to that, we were able to really enjoy our time in Jasper.
Yeah, and the thing that happened with me is I was kind of stuck in my head about something that was bothering me. And then just kind of thinking about it over and over and over again. And I guess kind of feeling slightly irritated and disappointed with Jasper because of this thing that was bothering me from somewhere else. So it's like almost like I was using my expectations to like justify my feelings, even though my feelings were based on something else. Doesn't really make any sense, but it's kind of what was happening in my head. And so once I was able to kind of see that I'm going through this weird mental loop and it's ridiculous and not getting me anywhere, then it was kind of like, okay, let's just enjoy the moment.
Yeah, for sure. And once we were kind of more in the present, it was definitely an enjoyable experience. We started off with a really good meal at Patricia Street Deli, which I would totally recommend if anyone's going to Jasper. Make a mean sandwich, I think.
Yeah, and very good sandwich. And then we had, some sushi, which is close to the best sushi I've ever had, which is kind of an unsuspecting place to get it in like the middle of the mountains. Yeah,
it's pretty interesting. We just went on TripAdvisor to look up good restaurants, and we found this sushi restaurant that was really highly recommended up at the Fairmont in Jasper. So we drove up there. It only had 12 seats in the whole place. One man who makes the sushi. Really cool experience. And the sushi was it was out of this world. Or maybe straight from Japan. Who knows? Not a good joke.
Maybe not. But I think, so we kind of went to Jasper and did stuff that's not really what people go to Jasper for. Like, I think you go to Jasper to enjoy the outdoors and to hike and get into that scene, right?
Yeah, for sure. We did that a little bit. On our way into Jasper, we stopped at Athabasca Falls and did a little walk. And then on our second day in Jasper, we actually hiked the Valley of Five Lakes, which is...
Is it Valley of Five Lakes?
Yeah.
It's not just Five Lakes?
No, it's the Valley of Five Lakes.
Oh, okay.
I'll post a link on the show notes. It's the Valley of Five Lakes.
Yeah, but there's a ton of great hikes up there.
Yeah, I was talking to a coworker after we got back, and she was telling me about the Malign Canyon, and I guess it's one of the most spectacular hikes in that area. She said she would go back to Jasper just for that alone. She's like, yeah, not much to do in the town, but that hike is definitely worth it. And I've heard the ski hill is really nice there, so I think it's definitely good in summer and winter. Maybe not the greatest place in fall.
Yeah, and it's one thing, like Banff and Canmore, since we're so close to Calgary, you get really overwhelmed with a lot of weekend traffic. Whereas Jasper, it's a little bit more isolated, so you get people going there for a longer period of time, and it has a bit more of like an isolated feel because there's no one there on like day trips, right?
Yeah, I don't think people like Banff and Canmore gets a lot of like Calgary traffic just in for the day. I don't think Jasper gets that because it's a few hours from Edmonton, a few hours from Rocky Mountain House. It's not really close to much. Maybe some small little hamlets.
Yeah.
But other than that, not much.
One thing that I was thinking about as we came home was kind of thinking about our experience in Patagonia in early summer North America, early fall, or early winter South America, where we went to Torres del Paine and a couple other spots down there. And it's funny how like these mountainous regions all kind of seem similar. I was thinking about how the Torres del Paine is like this thing where it's like, oh my God, you got to go there. Whereas like...
It's one of the top hiking spots in the world, I would say.
But like here in the Rockies, like there's spectacular mountains, and it's like, but this one thing has been built up to something so much bigger when it's like, it doesn't really make sense, you know?
Do you feel like Jasper's in there too? And like the Icefields Parkway, like, oh my gosh, you have to go, you have to see this glacier, you have to see this place, that sort of thing? Well,
there's definitely a few things around here which have more of like a cachet than others.
For sure. And so why do you think they're so popular?
I don't know. I think it's like a social thing that doesn't really have much logic or reason behind it. People just, oh, I've done this. Like, for example, the first thing that comes to mind is like Sentinel Pass, Larch Valley thing, where it's like, oh my God, like I went and did this. You've got to do this. But like there's other places you can go and see. So if anyone doesn't understand what I'm talking about, there's during fall, there's this one hike where there's a bunch of larches turning color that everyone wants to go see. But then there's plenty of other places where you can go do hikes with tons of larches, and absolutely no one goes and does those hikes. So it's like, why is this one hike so much popular than these other hikes?
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
Like,
yeah.
People, it seems to just be like sheep in some ways. It's like, oh, you've got to do this thing, so people go do it.
I think the thing is that, you know, people go out, they do hikes. There's lots of people who hike like backcountry and never write about it or talk about it or share with their friends or post on social media. And then there's other people who do something and they tell everybody that they know about it. Like, oh, you have to do this. It was the greatest thing ever. And I feel like places just become big because of that. Yeah,
because I remember when we were in Torres del Paine, there's the one trek, the W trek, that like is just swamped with people, and then apparently there's other treks with like no one on it. It's like, why does everyone feel like, I guess, yeah, it's like this social thing of like, oh, I did this thing, and it's like kind of some social credit you get with like your group of people, your group of friends, is like you get more value out of that because it holds more weight with them.
Yeah, and I think based on popularity as well. Like it's like, I think about all the different mountains in the area that we live. Like there's hundreds of them, yet there's a few select peaks that are super, super popular to ascend. And it's like you get like, it's like a social point if you've done it in that group of people.
Yeah, I guess it's like a way of connecting with people. It's like you know people, 3 people who have been up this one mountain. So now if you go do a different mountain, you can't have a conversation with them about it. But if you go do the same mountain, then you guys can all talk about how wonderful it was.
I feel like we're kind of putting a negative twist on this. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I mean, for me, I would rather do Larch Valley and Sentinel Pass and know that it's amazing than go search out some larches in the middle of the mountains myself. Personally.
Yeah, it's funny. Some like slightly weird, crazy guy who had an interaction with someone at the place I work with had the line, "If you're loved by many, you're hated by God." So,
what? What does that have to do with the larches?
Well, it's loved by many.
Hated by God? Does that make you want to do Larch Valley? I don't understand where you're...
If we get Jesus on the podcast one day, we can find out what their favorite hikes are.
And next week on the World Wanderers podcast, we'll be interviewing Jesus. No.
Yeah. So getting back on topic is... I don't even know if we have a clearly defined topic this week, but I remember being in Jasper. We've kind of been like huddled down in Canmore now for 3 months. And going to Jasper, I was like, oh, I miss Canmore. I like my house there. I like the town. It's when you go away, you can really appreciate what you've got at home, if you've got something good, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think it can work both ways. So I've definitely gone away and had that appreciation for what I have. And I've also gone away and it's been really clear to me that I need to change what I have back home, because what I have away is making me a lot happier than back home. So I think it can go either way. And going to Jasper definitely was like, when we decided to move out of Calgary, we kind of tossed around a few locations. Canmore was the top choice, but there was a few other mountain towns that were like, oh, that could be cool. We could do a ski season there. We could get like cafe jobs or hotel jobs or something just like that. And I am incredibly thankful that that location wasn't Jasper, because I don't know how happy I would be there.
Yeah, I think for what we were looking for, the place we found is pretty good for it. And it's funny, I was talking to someone about just Canmore, Banff and the whole area, how there's so many people here for different reasons. Like there's a big party scene of Australians and people from Ontario, essentially, who come here to just get shit-faced and party. But then there's also this like big scene of like people into yoga and outdoor activities and living a healthy lifestyle and getting away from like the stress and kind of a bit of the rat race. So there's all these people here for different reasons.
There's also a lot of extreme athletes out here, like backcountry people.
Like base jumpers, wingsuiters. So yeah.
Heli skiers.
Adrenaline junkies, alcohol junkies.
Maybe we just get extremists out in the Bow Valley.
Yoga junkies, yeah. Quite a bit of extremists, I guess. That's cool area.
So what do you recommend to our listeners to go to Jasper? If they did, what would you recommend for them to do there?
So yeah, the drive between Jasper and Banff is a spectacular drive.
Yeah.
So I think that's when people say, oh, it was the best part of Jasper, it's like, oh, the drive probably, and the sushi.
And the coffee.
Yeah, if you're planning a trip to this area, I think as like a base camp, Banff, Canmore area is a bit nicer place to be, depending on what your interests are. I think getting up that area, getting up towards Jasper is a really good thing to do, to take a drive. And in the summer, it'd be really cool to camp up there. I
was just going to say, I feel like you don't even need to use Canmore, Banff as a base. If you have a tent or a pickup truck or a camper, gross, but a camper or an RV.
I don't want to buy a camper van.
Okay, like a van, but I'm picturing those like big RVs. I don't like those. But if you have one, I respect you. It's fun. Stop in Canmore and Banff and make a trip to Jasper. I think that the drive is definitely worth it. I think Icefields Parkway and the Skywalk. The Skywalk seems pretty disappointing, but maybe it's good when you can actually go on it.
Yeah. And then if you're not going to Banff or Jasper and you just listen to this episode for other reasons, I think there's a lot of value in defining what your expectations are for your trip. Like that was kind of the message I wanted to delve into in this episode of the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it might sound ridiculous, but do it even for a 2-day trip, because it'll really help you get the most out of your weekend away. A lot of people are just like, especially traveling as a couple or a unit of 2 or however Ryan defined it earlier, or, a group of 4, a group of 5. I think it's really important for everybody to be really open about what they hope to get out of the trip. Because I've traveled with friends when people had different expectations and they weren't clearly outlined and we didn't discuss them, and somebody ends up disappointed when you're spending your time and your money and your vacation time from work and your precious weekend days. We don't get that many of them. You want to make sure you're getting the most out of it.
Yeah. And when you don't actively think about your expectations, you can build these really unrealistic expectations in your mind, and that leave you feeling frustrated and disappointed and like, oh, the world's out to get me because I can never meet these expectations. But if you really like looked at your expectations, you're like, these are crazy. Like I can never meet these. I need to set expectations that are realistic.
Yeah. And
like if I'm looking to to go to Jasper for the weekend and to, feel super happy, even though there's other things causing stress in my life, That's not realistic. It's not going to solve all my problems.
Yeah. Running away doesn't solve problems. You have to work to solve your problems. You think?
But I think it can help.
Yeah. I mean, I think that getting away really helps clear the mind in ways that you can very much identify the things that are stressing you out. Like, I feel like when I get away, it's like, wow, that situation at work was really putting a lot of stress on me. And now that I've been able to distance myself from that, I can really clearly see it.
Yeah. And then one of the added benefits of a road trip is you have tons of time to listen to the World Wanderers podcast.
Yeah. So download it on iTunes or on Stitcher, or visit www.theworldwanderers.com to stream it.
Yeah. So you can take your road trip, listen to 6 or 7 episodes, check out the show notes on theworldwanderers.com, send us an email at theworldwanderers@gmail.com.
That's not the right email address. The World Wanderers podcast at gmail.com, please.
Let us know what you think of the show. Enjoy your trip. Listen to more episodes on the way home.
And we'll stop promoting. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Yeah. See ya.